I'm your host, Davida Shinsky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits, Reach Personal Success on a Daily Basis. Now, when we talk about personal success, we also need to talk about the relationships we have in our lives because they really do affect whether or not we have healthy relationships or toxic relationships. And when you have toxic relationships, they feed into your self esteem and your self worth. And they determine whether or not you have a healthy outlook in your mindset. Therefore, today's presentation is titled Bad Dating Habits That You Need to Detox From This Year. Dating can be a rich and exciting experience for many people trying to find that special someone through the dating process can take time, effort, and plenty of insight. After all, you want to be sure that you're looking for the red flags as you get in there and date. As with any area in your life, it's easy to pick up some bad dating habits. Dating is no exception. There are plenty of tips and tricks for dating out there. Hopefully, you've put some time in to learning how to date, what to look for, and what to shy away from. Do you think that you picked up some bad dating habits? Well, here are some attitudes and behaviors that many people would call bad dating habits. Having a look to see if you fall into any of these categories. If so, it's a great time to do some reprogramming and drop them for good. So, the 5 dating habits that you need to detox from: the eager beaver. While it's true that many people like to put and like to be pursued, they probably want that pursuit to be consistent and steady rather than fast and furious. If you act like an eager beaver going a mile a minute in pursuit of that interest, it might just send them running. For example, let's say that you think that this particular person is the one for you. You shift 8 and right into high gear and rev up that engine to the max. You're off and in a hurry. The thing with this type of speed is that many people can sniff out this eager beaver or desperate behavior, and it tends to freak them out. They may feel the clinginess, ultra neediness, and pull away. While you may like this person, check yourself on your pace pursuing them. If you've had a history of coming on too strong, take a step back and evaluate the situation. Slow down. Allow the dating process to progress incrementally at a pace that both of you are comfortable with. Sure, you can show interest and get the momentum going. Just do it consciously at a steady pace. Remember, there's such a thing as the honeymoon stage in a relationship where everything is great. But as time goes on, that's when you get to know the person and whether or not this is the person you want to be with long term. So, letting life pass you by. This is a dating habit for you if you've been single for a while and have been so preoccupied with dating that you've lost some of yourself in the dating process. You scour the internet every day for potential mates. You chat, email, and video message. You may go on multiple dates per week or month. While all of this is fine and dandy, you may be letting your individual life fly by without realizing it. Have you been so focused on getting a partner that you've lost sight of you? Forgotten about having fun solo and with friends or family. Quit doing things that you used to love doing, such as hobbies, attending events, and other activities. Yes, get out there and date, but don't lose sight of yourself along the journey. The same old routine. Nothing changes if nothing changes. I've always loved this saying because it's just so true. If you've been following the same dating habits month after month or year after year and getting the same undesired results, perhaps it's time to do something different. If you desire to find that special someone this year, you may have to change things up. Some in order to break up that stale, same old energy. Just going to work every day might not be enough to find that special person. Visiting the same restaurant each week where you know everyone by name might not land you that date either. If you've fallen into the same old dating routine, try changing it up. Only been trying to meet people online? Get involved in some community activities. Only been going to work in the grocery store? Try online dating. Do whatever you can to meet new faces. There are plenty of ways to meet new people. Make a list today of how you're going to make some changes in your life so that you can have new potentials. Ignoring red flags. Ignoring red flags is a bad dating habit. Many people can look back at old relationships and see just how many red flags they failed to identify. Or if they did see them, they were secretly thinking, oh, I can change them. But ignoring red flags can cause a lot of problems and pain down the road. So, what are some red flags in a relationship? Disrespect, belittling, addiction and alcohol or drugs, lying, crossing boundaries, vastly different values. They just got out of a relationship too soon. You are the rebound. They roll their eyes at you. Yes, that's a real red flag. Every failed relationship they had was their ex's fault. They take no responsibility. They call you names or make fun of you. They have very little work ethic. They mean to their mom or dad or others. Invasion of your privacy, including social media, phone, computer, and whatever else. The twist is the truth, or rather, let's say it this way, they twist the truth to make you think that you're crazy. They clearly have no intention to commit to you. These are just some red flags to be on the lookout for. And don't let the logical relationship part of your brain go offline during the dating phase. Be on the lookout, and if you see a red flag, address it and keep it moving on to someone else. The problem is that In relationships, there's a lot of red flags early on. But when someone is so desperate to have someone in their lives, they don't watch out for these red flags. And then down the road, things get worse and worse. I can remember that the era that I grew up in, I knew many relationships that were always not the best. Or they were relationships where they would break up one day and they were back together the next. And most of that was just red flags that it was a bad relationship to begin with. Because back then, what happened was that men felt that they had the right to control or abuse a woman, and generations before that, the women accepted it. So what happened? The young women of my day got in relationships where they were abused. They got out of it, but then they would fall right back into the relationship. Why? Because they were so desperate to have someone to get out of the home that was a hostile environment to begin with. And there was a time when, at a generation before, the only way they got out of the home was to get married. But further on, and when my generation came along, they were just beginning to go out on their own, live independently, and take time to find relationships. But they were still not getting the best relationships. And that's why today and currently there's very much of a high divorce rate. But what we're seeing is that as we're learning more and more about healthy relationships, you're going to find the next few generations beginning to look for healthy relationships in marriages, for settling for less than you desire. You don't have to settle for someone who is not a good match for you. Even if you're tired of being single, be sure that the majority of your values and goals line up. Some people get really tired at navigating life as a single, so they attach to the first person that comes their way, bearing attention or gifts. They ignore red flags or just settle for someone who they view as all right. Slow it down. In reality, take some time to get to know each other. Hold out for that person who can truly love and feel secure with, the one that will cherish you, desire to commit to the long term or haul in a relationship, and treat you with respect. You deserve to have a partner that'll have your back, and vice versa. You'll thank yourself later down the road. Or rather, let's say this better because I know I'm not saying it right. You'll thank yourself later on down the road. So, positive dating habits. Did you recognize yourself in any of these? If so, do your best to know them out and knock them out of your life. Detox from habits that don't serve you or keep you feeling heavy. Dating is a wonderful opportunity to learn valuable lessons about you, others, and life in general. Stay optimistic and do your best to enjoy the process. And one of the last things I'm going to say about this is that when we look at the history of dating, this also forms a mental idea of how you see yourself. Because if you're, the reason we're talking about the red flags is this, because if you allow yourself to be abused in a relationship, then what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure because you're honestly to a point where you believe what they tell you and you internalize it. And this is how your partner controls you and keeps you. And another red flag is that if you're with someone and they're constantly telling you that you're the one, but they're also having affairs outside of that relationship, even though they're supposed to be committed to you, that's a red flag. And be sure that you actually take heed, because I can remember someone, and he was the representative for Georgia, and his name was Newt Gingrich. And this was someone who, while his first wife was sick in the hospital, he was dating his second wife. While he was married to his second wife, he already started dating his third wife. And yet, here was someone who was complaining about Clinton and all the affairs he had. And yes, he was president. And yes, he should have been more careful and more aware. But at the same time, if you have someone that is trying to attract your attention, sometimes it's best not to engage in that relationship, because they may only be looking for one thing, and that is how they can have their 15 minutes of fame. And the problem is, it doesn't matter because you're seeing it in the entertainment field all the time, where there's people who are married that are constantly having relationships, and the marriage may seem good at the beginning, but what's happening is here they are going out with someone, but they're only forgetting what they're doing is picking someone who's only down the road going to do exactly the same thing to them that they did to the person who they're currently in the relationship with. So it's important for you to learn what is a healthy relationship and find ways to find someone that you can have a healthy relationship with.